This episode may contain content that could be distressing or objectionable to certain listeners. Please refer to the episode show notes for details. Discretion is advised. Hello. Welcome to Your Movie, My Movie with Dan and Steve.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve. This is a podcast where one of us picks a movie to watch and we discuss it together. In this episode, we're talking about one of my picks, the 1983 movie Unico and the Island of Magic, starring Katsue Miwa, Iruka, Chieko Baisho, Shumi Shimamoto, Fujio Tokita, and Shuichi Ikeda in the original Japanese cast, and Barbara Goodson, Diane Lander, Marbury Stewart, Jan Rabson, or maybe that's Jan Rabson, Etienne Banalet, Michael Sorich, and Laura Cody in the English dub cast, and was written by Masaki Tsuji and directed by Moribi Murano. We will be talking about spoilers, so if you want to watch the movie first, now's the time to do so. But before we talk about the movie, Dan, who would you recommend this movie to?
I would recommend this movie to... I gotta look at my notes because I wrote it down this time.
Yeah.
Parents who want to pump a little existential dread into their kids and watch an entertaining film that stands for human goodness.
Okay. That fits. That really fits.
Steve, who would you recommend this movie to?
Well, Dan, I would recommend this movie to people who want to see an anime fantasy version of the original Star Wars trilogy compressed into one movie and intended for children, but somehow less appropriate for them.
Star Wars, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Who's Luke Skywalker?
Luke Skywalker would be Unico.
Okay. And Darth Vader is Karuku.
Yeah, because he gets saved by the power of love.
Yeah.
But all of his powers come from all the hate within himself.
Yeah.
And as soon as he feels someone's love, the dark side leaves him. And so he goes on to the side of good, which also destroys him, while everything around him that he helped build falls away too.
Review over. Excellent job, Steve.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. Beautiful.
Yeah. There's also a little bit of Fantasia mixed into this movie as well.
I haven't seen Fantasia, but it sounds like it would be similar to this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've heard music from Fantasia or something.
Oh, I'm sure you have. Yeah.
And I feel like I know what Fantasia is, but I don't at the same time.
There's a lot of pop cultural osmosis with that one. Mm-hmm.
That would make sense.
Yeah. So Dan, how do you want to get started with this movie? What are your thoughts about this movie?
I thought it was super cute. Was it shorter than last time? I think.
This movie was 90 minutes long.
Yeah, this was much shorter than last time.
So the same runtime.
The same, really?
Yeah, they're both 90 minutes long.
Wow.
Well, it's for kids, so...
Yeah, but last one felt longer to me for some reason.
Well, that's because of the pacing.
Yeah.
And, what was going on. This movie, oh my God, everything was happening. It was go, 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 go.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down, is, it feels like things are moving faster already. And I wrote that down, the first 3 shots, while the credits are still rolling in the beginning. Mm-hmm. It just goes boom, 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 boom. They don't waste any time on the exposition of the first one.
No, they just do a quick, brief rundown, and you get it, and then it moves on.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they left stuff out. I was kind of they didn't touch upon the fact that he gets his powers through love.
That's true.
Which I thought was
But they did show that within the movie. But
absolutely,
but they don't set it up. Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I always think it's interesting whenever you're working with a sequel, how much you cater to the new audience of people who haven't seen the first movie. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I kept looking for our old friends from the last movie, and they never showed up.
No,
which made me sad.
There's a lot of sadness going on in this movie.
You had me think that Unico was gonna die in this one for some reason.
Oh, well, I never said that. I said it was going to tear you up. You know, it'll tear you up, but not because of what happens to Unico. It's because of what happens to Karuku.
Okay.
Yeah, and like the family and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't know. I thought you said that he was going to die. And...
No. I never said that, and I never intended that.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, he doesn't die.
No. But things got super, super sad in a lot of places in this movie.
That's true.
What was the saddest part of the movie for you?
Man. I don't know if I saw it as sad as the, I don't know. I think the first one might have been more sad to me.
Oh, really?
But I think the saddest part was maybe the backstory of Kukuru. Yeah. That might have been the saddest part. Well, actually, I think the saddest part to me was Toby being such a jerk.
Oh.
To his family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he's also kind of like the Darth Vader, because, he, goes to the dark side, to learn more power to take care of his family. Mm-hmm. And then he gets seduced into evil by Karuku, who teaches him his magic, which is a lot like Anakin, wanting to save Padme. And then, being seduced by Palpatine into becoming Darth Vader. So that's another thing.
Yeah. This movie, again, is very epic, just as the first one is. Extremely,
Well, it's one of those great movies where it runs the gamut, where it's kind of epic in scale, but it's also very, very personal.
Yeah.
We get to know the characters, and there are very personal stakes involved with these characters. So, yeah. It's a lot like Edge of Tomorrow in that way, where, we have those epic stakes about the end of the world with the aliens invading, but there's also a lot of personal stakes because we get to know Tom Cruise's characters and the character of
Emily Blunt,
all of his troop in his squadron. We get to learn about them, and so we become invested in those characters by the time of the climax of the movie. So yeah,
it reminds me of another movie. I'm trying to remember. It was a movie where they were talking about a zero casualty war. I'm trying to remember what that movie was.
Okay.
Weird. Anyways.
Okay.
Sorry. But right. Okay. Yeah.
Well, the saddest moment for me.
Yeah. What was the saddest moment for you, Steve?
Oh my God. It was the part where they go to the Sphinx to learn how to stop Karuku. And then baby Sphinx tells Sherry and Unico that the Sphinx isn't there. So they have to go to the end of the world to talk to the great Trojan horse at the end of the world. And then they have to cross that desert. Mm-hmm. And then Sherry tells Unico, no, stay back. Don't go. You don't have to go anymore. And then Unico's like, oh no, she doesn't love me anymore. And then baby Sphinx is like, no, the reason why she doesn't want you to go is because she really loves you. And then that causes Unico to feel enough love to go into his Super Saiyan form. Yeah. But that was fucking sad. So, yeah, it's a good thing you didn't talk to me. Because I had a little something in my eye. So.
Such a softie, Steven.
I am.
That was a good part. I like that part.
This is one of the rare movies that warms my cold, dead heart.
I'm glad we watched it for the show then.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And, do
you think Sierra could handle this movie?
I think she'd be able to. Maybe.
Okay.
I'm gonna make her watch both,
Okay. Okay.
but I'll make sure she knows this Unico doesn't die.
Okay.
Anyways, frick.
Okay. How do we want to do this?
I don't know.
It's so funny that this is the movie that we're gonna like kind of stump on how to go forward with. Do you want to go with the script?
Yeah. Well, let's start outward and then go inward. So let's go with the shots. I want to go with the shots.
Okay.
And the aesthetic of this film.
Okay.
I don't remember the first one as much, but I think it was very similar to the first one. It didn't seem quite as humorous as the first one.
No. Well, the only humor that it has is in Melvin the Magnificat.
Yeah.
Which is, kind of, I guess it's kind of a knockoff of the Heathcliff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I watched a bit of Heathcliff when I was a kid, and I was like, that looks familiar.
Yeah.
But the shots in this movie are insane. They're so dynamic.
Yeah. Oh my God. The best shot in the movie is when Toby and Karuku are having their little duel. And then Toby is running down the hallway, and then we see it from his side.
Yeah.
So it's a side view of him, and so it's like the camera is dollying towards him. And then the camera goes a little bit ahead to the end of the hall, but Toby doesn't go, and so the camera backs up, and then we see that Toby got zapped, and there's that light around him, and then he gets turned into the living puppet. That's such a dynamic shot. That's the best shot in the movie, I think.
Dude, I don't know if I was, because I was writing stuff down, so I don't know if I saw the entirety of that shot.
Okay.
But my favorite shot, and it's so like nerdy, but like it's in the beginning, I think, when the title credits are still happening. But
okay,
the West Wind is carrying Unico, and she's so bright. We see like an archway in some sort of town, and it's like a static camera shot, but there's like shadows because it's like 2:00 in the afternoon, and then the West Wind goes over and like makes completely new shadows. It's like the sun passes by really quickly, almost, and it's just like I was just like, who thought of getting that shot?
Yeah.
What animator thought, I'm gonna put the imaginary camera right here so we get to see the cool shadows happen as the West Wind passes? Like, that to me is so, that's like such thinking outside of the box. Because like the shot isn't of anyone. It's not showing you anything except
it's like the shadow from a cloud as a cloud passes by the sun. Kind of, yeah. But
but like the West Wind's light is brighter than the sun. So it's like it's just like, to me, it's like such a mundane thing. It's so fascinating that they chose to put it in the movie. But I mean, it looks amazing. Yeah. But it's like, no, that's so creative, and like, it's just so cool. I love that. Whoever did that, great job.
And, for listeners who don't know, shadows are so important in the cinematography of a film, both live action and animated. And the reason why is because film is a two-dimensional medium, but we live in a three-dimensional world. So what gives the 2D film the sense of three dimensions are shadows. And so that's why shadows are so important. And it's important in animation just as much, if not more so, than in live action productions. So
this was just like an amazing choice to include in the movie, I thought.
Yeah. It really brings the movie to life.
Yeah. And it like, because it's like, it's an objective point of view too. It's not like following Unico directly. It's like, what if you were just walking down the street and you were just looking around and you just saw like a bright light? It's just like, it's so removed from the story, but at the same time not removed at all.
Right.
And it grounded you immediately. It was very interesting. Also, this movie felt way more psychedelic than the first one.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's because of the iridescent lighting effect. Yeah.
Of
Karuku.
Yeah. That was They have such cool character design, I feel like.
Oh God. While I was watching this movie, I was thinking about Neon Genesis Evangelion, because that's an anime where that one's about monsters, but the monster design for that are it's just so out of the box.
Yeah.
And yeah, the guy who did Neon Genesis Evangelion, I know he worked on Nausicaa of the Valley of the Winds for Studio Ghibli, as the monster designer for that movie.
Oh wow!
But I don't know if he did anything with this, but I see a lot of similarities with how Karuku acted. So yeah,
I've only seen part of the first season of Neon Genesis Evangelion, but I really liked it so far. I want to finish it eventually.
Okay.
But I see what you mean as far as just the outside of the box character design. And we got it in the first one too with the freaking what was it? The Wind of the Night?
Yeah, the Night Wind. Yeah,
Night Wind, and whenever she freaking like goes by with her cape and everything turns into lines.
Yeah.
It's just so.
That was very cool, but it's also like a little traditional.
Yeah.
But they did it to like great effect. So, I'm not talking shit about it, but like the difference here is like, exponential, because Karuku is not just the puppet who like morphs, like his physicality morphs, but he also transforms into different shapes of that light. And, we don't see the edges, like there's no like black line for the edges, but we still see edges in the geometric shapes that he turns himself into.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's astonishing. I love it whenever animators use animation to be extra crazy than you can in the real world.
Yeah. There's this one shot where Karuku is like looming over Unico, but Karuku has like an invisible sphere around him.
Yeah.
And then when he gets up close to Unico, how we see Unico, it distorts as if Karuku was inside of a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a level of detail this movie goes into when it comes to things like that.
It reminds me of the shields in Dune, in the old Dune.
Okay, yeah.
So good.
So good.
But again, it's just like, holy shit, this movie was so terrifying. Like, I was trying to imagine little me watching this movie.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because, like, I remember I've talked about my love for, like, movies that make me feel existential, sort of. And this would be firmly in that category. Because just, there's, like... what, the Island of Lost Souls or whatever that place was.
Well,
at the end of the world, the island.
It's hold on. Yeah, it's the end of the earth. Yeah, and that's where everything that has been forgotten washes up. And that's such a huge theme throughout this movie, is being forgotten. Yeah.
Being forgotten, being left behind.
Yeah.
Discarded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like with, the family, there's Sherry's family. And then Sherry talks to Unico about, her brother. And it's like, but she never referred to him by name until we see who it is, that it's Toby. Yeah. It's like, the big twist. But when Sherry mentions him, the father says, don't mention his name. He's forgotten about us. So there's that, and then there's Karuku being forgotten and being sent to, the end of the earth. Unico, he forgets where he forgot the last adventure.
Yeah, I think that was a really vital part of the story, and I don't know. It wasn't said in the first movie that he forgets. No, but it was. I don't think it was said, but it's definitely said in this movie. Absolutely, which I think is a nice extension of the lore. Well, I don't know. I wonder what would be more impactful, if he forgets or if he remembers everything. I don't think it matters either way, because
the secret of the premise of this is that it's literally the same movie over and over and over. Like you could just keep making movies, like this.
Yeah.
Where Unico is taken away to somewhere else, and then he uses the power of love to stop evil. And then he gets swept up, and then goes somewhere else, and then he does it again. He's like a little cuddly A-team.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, the Incredible Hulk.
Again, yeah, the Incredible Hulk.
Or the Fugitive.
The Fugitive.
Maybe the Fugitive would be even more apt because, they're gunning after him all the time.
The one with Harrison Ford?
Oh, well, that's a movie, but that was based off of a TV show.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Where he goes from town to town looking for the one-armed man who killed his wife that he was framed for. And then it isn't until the very last episode of the show where he, resolves that.
Wow. So they actually had a last episode too.
Yeah. I'm pretty certain they did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love it when shows actually have a last episode and they don't just end.
Well, TV shows are fun like that because you can never have it, like, no matter how long the show goes for, you can never have a character arc until the very last episode.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of changed, but
it's
before the 2000s, that's how all TV shows were.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, where were we? It's double-sided abandonment. I'm thinking of whenever they're like, yeah, Toby's gone. He left us behind. He forgot about us. And it's like, but at the same time, they are not talking about him. They're trying to forget about him. Yeah. Just an interesting little double-sided bit of abandonment and how it makes other people abandon other people.
Oh my God, there's so much abandonment in this movie too. It's going to make me cry.
It's okay, Steve. It's okay.
It's going to be okay. Babies. The demon babies.
Yeah, I didn't really see them. I was hoping to see them in the end. Did we get to see them?
I think there were like a couple of floating. I think there are like some demons, and I'm sure they're fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know they're fine, but
yeah, it would be nice. Yeah, yeah. So Unico gets swept away, and then Sherry, runs after him. But she can't say goodbye. But then she finds the Karuku puppet. And then, that's when I wrote, we're going to get our JRPG epilogue. That happens in a JRPG video games.
Okay.
But, it wasn't quite as good. I wish we had more. So
I think it was a nice little snapshot of the epilogue. I think it was all we really needed, but we could have gotten more.
Yeah.
That would have made it a little bit more uplifting of an ending.
Yeah, I think so too.
Not that it wasn't uplifting, it just it would have been a nice little, pat on the back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But the
demon babies
we're talking about were Toby needs to go find more beings to turn into living puppets for Karuku.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes to the land of the demons.
Yeah.
And basically starts just zapping all those demons.
Yeah, and the soundtrack. Oh my God. We'll have to talk more about the soundtrack of this movie. This soundtrack is such an important part of this movie, but it's so great because in that part, the soundtrack gets so discordant.
Yeah. Dude, the freaking... I wanted to say level design. The set design, the world building of that demon place was so cool. There's this giant nest ball. Mm-hmm. It's like a giant ball on these pillars or pedestals, but it looks organic. It looks like it was made by a living creature, and it's filled with holes. It looks like a golf ball on a few pedestals. And Toby goes in there, starts zapping everybody. And that's basically the nest of the demons in this place. That's their home.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so creepy looking and so textured. It's just so beautiful and scary. Sorry. It reminds me of this album that I listened to when I was in high school, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Called The Caretaker. Have you ever heard of it?
Mm-mm.
It's inspired by the music from The Shining.
Okay.
Whenever they're in the ballroom. But basically, it's supposed to represent the stages of dementia. And there's a few albums of The Caretaker, but the first album is of this like giant boulder with a cigarette. And it's such an unnerving looking album for some reason, but it's so cool at the same time. Great music. I don't know if I listened to every album, but super cool concept. But it reminded me of that just as far as the sphere, and it felt like some living creature in itself.
Yeah. You know what it reminded me of?
What?
It reminded me of Dagon.
Okay.
When the protagonist, he's trying to get away from the town, and so he goes into this one house, and then there's this great big guy, fish guy with, more like a squid guy, and so like he bashes him in the head with something and knocks him down, and then there's that little young boy. He's like, Grandpa, why'd you hit my grandpa? But I think they're from Portugal, so like abuelo. So it's like, monsters have feelings too. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we see those.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so after Toby zaps all the parents, we see the children hiding out like it's the freaking Holocaust or something. Like, like they're just hiding in like this recesses of this giant dome, and they're all like, my parents, where did mom and dad go? And they're like, their mouths are the size of their entire bodies whenever they're crying.
And it's like, don't cry, because if you're gonna cry, then I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna cry, well, then they're gonna cry. And if they're gonna cry, well, then everybody cries.
Yes. And Unico definitely cries. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the craziest, most like what the fuck shot of the movie to me was whenever there was this little demon, and it was just like a ball with legs and arms and eyes.
Yeah.
And it was just like walking along, and then it starts crying, and it opens up its mouth, and then it opens up its mouth all the way until it turns into like a flat square of just mouth screaming, and then it just turns into the lines that make up its shape, and then the lines fall down and the eyes come out of the lines, and then it turns itself into a ball again and like puts its eyes back on. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that's the animators playing with the two-dimensionality and three-dimensionality. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Dude. If I saw that as a kid, I would like be crying in the corner.
That's what freaked you out in this movie?
No, but I think that would scare me as a kid, or at least like disturb me in a way.
It does make an impression. There's a lot of impressions.
Because it's like it breaks all the rules of your head.
Yeah.
It's like breaking the fourth wall almost.
Yeah. Well, there was another fourth wall breaking moment.
There wasn't there?
Do we want to go into that now, or do we want to wait?
I don't care. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah, because...
Are you talking about the dinosaur mechanical thing?
Yeah, I call it the giant fire-breathing Pee Wee Herman robot dog.
Yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, and so it's this... Well, it's a wind-up toy of a dragon, but it's like gigantic.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of roams around the island in, just a, normal... villain.
This is the Nightmare Island that is home to Karuku.
Yeah, that he has built out of the living creatures that he has turned into living dolls because of his power of hate.
Yeah.
And the magic that he has derived from it. And so, yeah, so it's just going around, just being a nuisance, basically. And, it always goes, ah, ah, ah. And that's where the Pee Wee Herman part comes in.
Okay.
And so he just chases them around and they run away from him. And then there's that part where we see its side as it's rolling along.
Yeah.
And then it turns to face the audience. And it's like so long, like it's pretty lengthy that it goes for. And then all of a sudden it stops because his head crashed into a bridge.
Yeah.
So he got distracted looking at the audience and didn't see the bridge and crashed into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why this movie's like off the wall. This movie's like on acid compared to the first one.
Well, the most, trippy part was when Karuku made the living dolls dance for him.
Okay, that was okay. I was kind of really tired watching this movie, and I was falling asleep a little bit. I was trying to keep myself awake. But what was okay? So that's what he did, right? He had like a little parade for himself, right?
Yeah. Well, I compare it to like the ice capades, but instead of like skating on ice, you know, they were on these flying platforms, and so like he made them like dance around because, you know, he was a puppet, but this time he's the puppeteer, controlling them and making them perform for him. And by that point, Sherry was turned into a doll, and Unico was turned into like a little toy horse with unicorn, or a little toy unicorn, like a wooden unicorn, with wheels on it. And you know, he was making them dance around until he saw Toby, you know, watching him, and then he freaked out and ended everything. So
that was such a crazy scene.
Yeah.
Because it's like such an insight into both their characters of like, because it's like,
Kuruku is the puppeteer now.
Yeah, he's the puppeteer now, but also like, does he enjoy that, or is he still filled with hatred? And is it like,
he's still filled with hatred, but he enjoys it because he's able to control them. Yeah. So it's like an evil enjoyment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like whenever Toby looks in on this, it's like he's walked into something that he was never should have seen, and it's like he's just seen Kuruku's like innermost parts.
Yeah.
And the scariest, like it was an extremely private moment to Kuruku.
Yeah.
It was like, and it's something that he would want to hide. It was crazy to me. Like I was like, whoa, that felt deep.
Well, it really reminds me of The Empire Strikes Back. Where there's that shot on the Star Destroyer where Vader is in that thing, but he has his mask off, and then that admiral comes in, and so he looks through the like wedges, and he sees Darth Vader without his mask from behind, and then the mask comes on, and then, you know, the chamber opens up, and then he addresses the admiral. We might be talking about Star Wars surprisingly a lot in comparison of this movie.
It's been a long time since I've seen Star Wars.
That's okay. I've got them all memorized. Well, except for the sequel trilogy. So.
But you have the prequels memorized?
Oh fuck. I have the dialogue memorized.
Well, okay, another cool shot I want to talk about the movie. There's this scene where Melvin the cat chases Unico away because, first Unico, he's afraid Unico is going to stab him to death with Unico's horn. Yeah. So Melvin is running away. But
scaredy cat.
Yeah, he's a scaredy cat. But then Melvin's, honchos, Melvin's sidekicks are like, yo, why are you such a scaredy cat? Aren't you supposed to be our boss? Like, why are you acting so afraid? And he's like, you're right. I'm not afraid. And then he like throws Unico off a cliff into like some pond water. And Unico climbs up on a fallen branch in the water. And it's like to show Unico's aloneness and Unico's sadness. But it does this thing where it like zooms in on Unico crying, and then it cuts back out again to the same shot, but now Unico's head is further down, and it does the same exact zoom in, maybe a little further this time, and then it does it again. But it's like, it was just so enthralling. I was like so many of these shots I want to use in something. Like I want to take them from this and put them in something I make, because they're just so useful and so evocative. Like I don't think I've ever seen that before, where it's the same subject, but we zoom in multiple times to them. It's almost like multiple takes of a shot, but it's not, because the time in the story is progressing, but the movement of the shot is repeating. I don't know how. Yeah. Am I describing it okay?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
But I thought that was so creative and just amazing. And it made me feel things, and it was like, whoa, I also have never seen this before. So I love that.
if you don't feel things watching this movie, you're a fucking sociopath.
Right. But I mean,
well, I just wanted to tell the audience, I mean, you're going to feel things in this movie. If you don't, there's something seriously wrong with you.
Yes.
So,
but the camera movement itself, I think,
is wonderful.
Created a feeling in me there.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like so much other like dynamic things going on with the cinematography, like Toby and his magic log speeder bike.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. And then, which he can turn anything into. And he just surfs around flying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was so cool. And it reminds me of this other movie. I just ordered the DVD for it for the show.
Uh-huh.
Rainbow Bright and the Star Stealer.
Wow.
Yeah, because that animated movie, that has a robot horse. Okay, but its legs are jets, and it's the fucking thing. It's the fucking coolest thing ever. Especially when you're like 8 years old.
Oh my gosh!
Maybe also when you're 42 years old, but definitely when you're 8 years old. But yeah, those shots are kind of cool. Just him like surfing around, and then there's that wizard's duel between Toby and Karuku that we already talked about. That is just action packed. Mm-hmm. And then, you already mentioned it when Toby zaps all the monsters, monsters are like flying towards the, point of view of the camera so much, very discordant. And so, yeah, there's a lot of, dynamic energy in this movie.
Absolutely. Like they just use the medium to its fullest, I think. Mm-hmm. They even go so far as to break a few rules. It reminds me of like a thing I learned in like high school and theater was that there was this guy, I forget his name, forgive me, but he was like a theater theorist. Mm-hmm. And he had this idea of trying to alienate the audience by...
Was that Brechtian?
Probably.
Okay.
But he was trying to do that by I forget what I think it was using lights and music, but it ended up bringing the audience in more and more and making them feel even more involved and enveloped. Mm-hmm. And I think that was cool. And it reminded me of like that one demon that falls apart and then puts itself back together and breaking the fourth wall.
It breaks the rules, but it doesn't bring you out. It immerses you even more.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why is because, even though that's like against the laws of physics, it's not against the laws of feeling.
Yeah.
So, when that monster does that and, becomes all chaotic and discordant, well, that's a very, discordant feeling going on in the movie at that moment. So it's just physically showing what we are feeling and what the other characters are feeling at that moment. So, yeah. And, you can only get away with that with animation, maybe even just 2D animation. I mean, could you imagine doing something like that if this was like CGI?
I think Rango does it.
Oh,
sometimes.
Does it?
I don't know. Have you seen Rango?
No.
Oh, man. I might make you watch Rango.
Okay, yeah. Rango, not Ringu, because we already watched Ringu. Correct. We're talking about Rango.
I'm talking about the...
Totally different movie.
Totally different movie. I'm talking about the...
It'd be so funny if for, our past episode, if people watch Rango. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this about, some bitch in a well? Where's the lizard sheriff, or the lizard cowboy?
I might need to show you Rango.
Okay.
Did I say the right one? Yeah, Rango. Okay.
I think LJ loves that movie.
It's a great movie. It's a fantastic movie.
Okay. Do you want LJ to come on as a guest?
That could be cool. That could be cool. I don't know how much he would talk about it. I don't know.
Okay.
Potentially.
Okay.
But
anyways,
I wanted to talk about how this movie is about genocide.
Okay, so we're going to go right from the camera work to right to the heavy stuff. Oh, well, I mean, not that this show hasn't been heavy already, but like,
okay, when freaking Toby's like it reminded me of the freaking Inglourious Bastards whenever they come into the house in the beginning and are like looking for the Jews.
Oh!
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, when he goes into the cabin.
When he goes into the village and starts like just offing everybody.
Yeah. Well, what happens is, so what happened? Okay. You know, we haven't even described the plot. Do we need to describe the plot in this
Maybe
movie?
you should. I'm going to grab my drink.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
You're fine. You know what? I'm not going to describe the plot. I'm not, because the audience should just watch it. Just watch the movie and then.
Well, we can describe it really quick. Watch the movie, but basically Toby is a character who was a magician in training, and he is an indentured servant. He has agreed to become, you know, the slave or whatever of this guy Kuruku, who is like an all-powerful wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And Toby is given the task of turning people into living puppets, quote unquote.
Well, not just people, but like...
Okay, right. Animals at first.
Yeah.
It was only animals at first into living puppets. And then Kuruku drops the bomb of, you got to turn a bunch of humans into living puppets too. And Kuruku was like, that wasn't part of the deal. Toby's like, that wasn't part of the deal. And
I have altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it further.
Exactly. And spoiler alert, he does alter it further.
Yeah. But not only that, but you find out that the village is the one that he grew up in. So that's when he goes back to the
village that Toby grew up in.
Yeah. So that's when Toby goes into the cabin where his parents and, you know, young Sherry is. And that's where Unico is, because they rescued Unico and have nursed him back to health. And, you know, they haven't seen them in 3 years. So it's like, oh, it's so wonderful. And then Unico's like, oh, no, that terrible person is Sherry's brother.
Yep.
And so, and that's when we kind of learn what Toby's motivation is, that he ran away to learn magic from Kuruku so that he could make his family's lives better.
Because they are poor.
Yeah. But then the dad is like, well, you know, you can't just wave your hands and, use magic to be happy. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute here. There's a level of hard work that we need to put into, especially when we have, they use magic, but we use technology and, capitalist society. But anyway, but yes, their magic is evil. And so, it's like the dark side of the force where nothing good can come from it. And I think that was the point that the dad was trying to make. But anyway, and so Toby wants to show off his magic, which is basically making flowers pop out and turning things into toys.
Yep.
Other than kicking wooden things off to fly surf on them. He also has that power too. He's also great at using a flute.
Yeah. He's like a Pied Piper character in a way.
Yeah.
But so back to the plot.
Back to the plot. Okay. And so then what happens is, Toby kind of reintroduces himself to the family. And then he hears Kuruku coming. And so he blows out the lantern and he tells his family, hey, you got to leave. But they're like, no, this is my house. I'm not leaving. And that's when Kuruku comes in, and Kuruku basically forces Toby to turn his parents into living puppets, and then to do so for the rest of the village. Yeah. And he does that, but he also hides Sherry and Unico from Kuruku so they don't get turned into living puppets. And then he goes around the town and turns everyone else in the village into the living puppets. And then that's when he does the Pied Piper thing and use his flute to make the living puppet stand up and then march towards the ship, which then sails to Nightmare Island, which we find out Kuruku is using those living puppets to turn into the largest castle, ever.
Yeah, he's making a castle out of discarded humans, basically.
Yeah, well, just out of people that he hates.
Yeah.
And he's not going to stop until he does it to every living creature.
Yes.
Because that's how much he hates humanity. Yeah.
Which is bonkers and amazing. What a great villain.
Yeah. But this movie, it's an advanced level, example of great writing for villainy.
Yeah, because
the villains are so complex. But we'll talk about that with the screenplay when we, talk more about the script. So.
But again, okay, the plot is then basically Sherry and Unico follow Toby around and keep trying to convince Toby to stop, and then they realize that they have to stop Kuruku. But they can only do that with the help of
they
people.
get caught, and then Toby convinces Karuku to let him turn them into toys because he knows how to turn toys back and forth. He doesn't know how to do that for living dolls. And so then that's when we get the ice capades. And then after that, Toby takes doll Sherry and toy Unico, and he takes them to the Valley of Demons and turns them back and says, just hide here. And then we get the massacre in Demon Valley. And then that's when Unico and Sherry they decide to travel to the Sphinx because the demon babies tell them that the Sphinx is on the other end of the Valley of the Demons. So that's so they get there. The Sphinx isn't there, but Baby Sphinx is. We're never given his name. So I just call him Baby Sphinx. But then Baby Sphinx says, well, if you want to know something, you have to talk to the great Trojan horse at the end of the world. Sherry tells Unico not to come because it's too long and it's too far, and she doesn't want to put her friend through that. But his friend doesn't want to leave her behind because he loves her so much. And then he goes Super Saiyan.
Yeah. So they make it to the Trojan horse in the island of misfit toys.
Yes.
And the island of discarded stuff from humans.
Yeah.
And the Trojan horse, I think this is another incredibly sad part. They're like, we're looking for the Trojan horse, and all the objects start crying out and talking to them like, who are you? What are you doing here? Why are you here?
Well, they say, you're a human. You threw us away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Trojan horse talks to them, and they start cleaning off the Trojan horse, and he's like, wow, it's been so long since anyone has taken care of me, or I forget what he says, but cared for me maybe.
Yeah.
And so they basically dust him off and return him to his full glory of his beautiful colors, when before he was covered in dust and just gray. And so he tells them the story, the backstory.
Well, he also shows them because he's like, hey, look into my eye.
Oh, yeah. He shows them.
Yeah, because he's like a rocking horse and with hollow eyes, so you can like look into the head. So they peer into his eye, and so he's able to show them Karuku's backstory, which was really cool. I thought that was so great too.
Yeah. Again, just amazing character design,
and also like use of magic and the sense of fantasy and so forth. To look into somebody's eye and then show them.
Yeah, a beautiful metaphor too in a way, and like just symbolism.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, that's where I think this Unico is so cool and mythic.
Yeah.
Both of them.
When we were done, you asked me if there were any more movies, and I was like, no, not really. Which is a terrible fucking shame. So
it is.
Yeah.
This is a movie that should come back in today's age, but
not by Hollywood.
No, never mind. Not Hollywood.
Not Hollywood.
Maybe Studio Ghibli or something. That would be cool.
Yeah, well, maybe.
I don't know. You can't beat the originals.
Yeah, and Studio Ghibli has its own kind of tones for things, So I don't know if they would go where this movie goes. But we've also said, well, I don't know if this movie should have gone where it goes.
That's fair.
So.
But so we learned the backstory of Karuku.
Yeah.
And
we learned that he was a puppet who was used by a terrible woman and an evil magician.
Yeah.
And who was misused by them. He was basically abused by them until his strings got all mangled together, and then they threw him away. And then eventually he washed up on the end of the earth.
Yeah.
And it was the one spot where sunlight shows every so often.
Right.
And so like 200 years later, he absorbed the magic of the sunlight so much that he was able to come to life. And so he was so full of hatred for humanity, he walked away and, just walked into, the ocean, back into the ocean to go back to, the rest of the world just so that he could get his revenge on humanity. So, yeah. And so they learn about this. And the reason why is because they want to learn how to undo his magic. And then the great Trojan horse's answer is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But then he explains that, well, you can use good to fight evil, and, the power of courage and love can counter hate.
Yeah.
So, Unico goes Super Saiyan again and takes them back to Nightmare Island, and then that's when they decide to confront Karuku. Karuku calls Toby, and then we have the great duel between them, which is kind of like when Darth Vader fights Palpatine, but this time Palpatine wins.
Right.
Which is great. And then all of Unico's friends get zapped, until there's only Unico left standing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Unico freaking jumps through Karuku.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's like a whole bunch of stuff goes on before that, though.
Yeah.
Because Unico is being chased, but he's not doing anything offensive. He's just running away, and he even says, I don't know what else I can do. All I can do is run away. And so he runs away so much, he even grows fairy wings to fly away, and Karuku keeps after him. But finally, Karuku has Unico cornered.
Yeah.
Looming over Unico, and Unico is kind of cowering. Unico's like, I don't want to have to fight you. I don't want to destroy you. That's literally what he says.
Yeah. What a badass line.
From this cute little cuddly.
Don't make me kill you.
Yeah, this cute little cuddly Unico, don't make me destroy you. And Karuku's like, you destroy me? And then that's when we get the badass shot of it's just like the first movie, except Unico is not in his Super Saiyan form, which is weird.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't go Super Saiyan for this part. He's just the little guy, and he, scratches Karuku, but it looks like a slash on his shoulder.
No, he goes through him.
Oh, well, he goes through him, but then Karuku acts really hurt.
Yeah.
But Unico's like, well, I barely touched you. And then Karuku explains, yeah, but you have love in your heart, and I can't stand it. and then you, oh, no, I might get something in my eye again. And then because Unico keeps on going, well, I know how you feel. I don't have friends either, and then Karuku's like, no, friends? I can't have friends. I'm too terrible. And then Unico's like, nobody's too terrible to have friends. And each time Unico keeps on going about it, the power of friendship and love. Karuku's like, oh, no. Yeah. And he becomes weaker and weaker. And I think does Unico even say I love you?
I think so. Okay. Something like that.
Yeah. And then that's the final, that's it. And then Karuku loses all of his hate. And he starts to feel again. And, because he doesn't have that hate in his heart anymore, he loses all of his magic. And then, he just becomes a puppet. And then the nightmare, all the living dolls, transform back, and, so on and so forth.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a little like the Grinch.
Yeah. Definitely. I thought of that. The Grinch is hot. Ooh, 3 sizes that night. Well,
it's also a lot like Falling Down. Because, so in the comparison with Falling Down, Karuku would be Defense, played by Michael Douglas. But Unico would be Pendergast, played by
Oh gosh,
the great Santini.
The Corleone.
Yeah. The Consigliere.
Yeah, the Consigliere.
Oh my God, he was in Open Range.
He was in the Good Lion. No, the Brothers. What was it? What is it called? Secondhand Lions. The guy.
Oh my God. I pulled up Open Range, but he's not even the top part.
What is his freaking name? He's with Michael Caine in Secondhand Lions. He's freaking.
Robert Duvall.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What a weird tangent.
Yeah, Unico is Robert Duvall, Detective Pendergrass, where they're both having a bad day. Okay, they're both having
a bad day.
Yeah, they're both having bad days, but one handles it, like a normal, sane person would, whereas, the other person just becomes a total psycho.
Yeah.
Which is also the premise of, what is it? A Batman.
The Batman?
A Batman comic book where Batgirl gets shot.
The Killing Joke?
Yes, The Killing Joke. That's also the premise of The Killing Joke, because Batman had his parents shot, but he doesn't become a villain. Instead, he becomes a hero and seeks out justice. Whereas with the Joker, I think in that one of the possible backstories is that he was a comedian who was very poor, and so he had a wife that he had to take care of, but then things went wrong, and because all that stuff went wrong, he became a villain. So it's like that thing where, well, just because you have a bad day, doesn't mean you have to be a villain.
Right.
Yeah. So weird movie comparisons in this episode.
Back to Unico.
Yes.
Cool ending.
Yeah.
2 thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie.
Are you done?
No, I'm just kidding. I just didn't know what to talk about. Let me look at my stars. I always star my favorite things about the movies.
Okay.
Toby's costume is very weird.
Yeah, I really like that. It's a two-tone blue.
Yeah.
With yellow underneath.
And it's also like opposite. So like his leg, one leg is like dark blue and the other leg is lighter blue. Yeah. And then on the opposing arm is matched with the color. So it's like a checkered sort of design, but also he has like some sort of cape almost, or like either that or like extremely broad shoulders. It's so weird.
It's like a poncho.
Yeah,
in a way.
But also like when he gets hurt, like the poncho
gets hurt too.
Like there's blood on the. It's like his shoulder fills it. It's so weird. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of what is it? Impressionist.
Yeah.
You don't have to show the stuff. You have the impression of it.
Right.
And I think that style was really. It feels like really inspired by what is it? G-Force Guardians of. No. Science Ninja Team Gotcha Man, which was a Japanese anime, I think during the 80s. But anyway, I'll show you a picture of it or some images of it.
Okay. It's very puffy and very circular.
Yeah.
Rounded with large capes.
Yeah. And the cape is very circular and puffy too. Mm-hmm. So I think they wanted to, go with a similar kind of design. Which was very popular.
It's exaggerated.
Yes, very exaggerated. Yeah,
which is
very exaggerated.
Yeah. What else do we have? I wrote down the Valley of the Demons was awesome artwork.
Well, we haven't talked about the music yet.
I know, we have to talk about the music.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about the freaking music and the sound effects.
Okay.
Because oh my gosh. It like elevates this movie to another like immortal level.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know why I haven't heard of these movies before. Like yes, they're kids movies, but like they're fantastic and they're.
I think the use of music in this movie is like it's exponentially better than the first one.
I agree.
Yeah, but music is also like such an important part of this movie. With him, being the Pied Piper.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there are parts of this movie where it's just the music and there's no dialogue because, it's with the Pied Piper parts, but it's also with the Ice Capade parts too. So,
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the layering and the sound design, like whenever Toby zaps people, even the zaps are so rich.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know, I'm just going to say evocative, and they just make you feel viscerally like the things that are happening on the screen. Mm-hmm. Like they just do an amazing job of, it's so rich and dense. Like, I'm trying to think of what other sound effects, like the roaring of the Pee Wee Herman demon dragon toy dragon thing.
Yeah.
Like even its roars, they're like layers of it. It sounds like the freaking zombies from like Black Ops 1 zombies or 2 zombies, you know, like what they have like a scream, but it's layered, and it's 10 times scarier than just a scream. You have just sometimes I hate it whenever sound effects accentuate like actions, but in this movie they do it beautifully, and it doesn't detract from the action.
Well, it helps when those effects, those visual effects, are so incredible. You know, so. You know, we were talking before about the use of shadow in this movie. I was just thinking about the, you know, near the beginning where Toby is on his log speeder bike. Yeah. So there's like light that looks like an exhaust coming out, but in the front of the log, it looks like there's a spotlight. Yes. And he uses it to, you know, look after Melvin and then, you know, hunt down Unico. Yeah.
And two, whenever we first are introduced to Toby, he's way up in this tree and he's playing the flute and he has his back to all the creatures that he's playing for. But there's light, like moonlight, and all the creatures are bathed in it, and we get their shadows, and the shadows are coming right back, and like the light is facing them directly. It's just like a nice consistency. Yeah. As far as when we cut to Unico and then when we cut to the other animals, it's all very consistent. So many beautiful.
Yeah. And then the music. Did we talk enough about the music?
Like, it's so hard to talk about music. Yeah. At least for me, I don't have the vocabulary. Yeah. But it feels like some sort of crazy acid rock. It feels orchestral. It feels.
Well, it really takes me back to my childhood because, you know, this is kind of what, you know, those animated movie, you know, it's what they sounded like. You know, I mean, you know, I don't really compare it to acid rock. You know, it's not that. It's more like, well, most of it, you know, is classical because, you know, it's like something that, you know, you would hear from a symphony, except for the discordant part with the Monster Valley. But that sounds more like, you know, intentionally discordant jazz. Yeah. You know, so.
But I think it feels more like synth and it feels more electronic than just a regular orchestra, at least to me. I don't know.
Okay, that's interesting.
But that's just
I didn't really notice any electronic parts to it, unless it's like a synthesizer sounding like.
Maybe that's just my imagination, just because it felt so fantastical. Okay. But it doesn't. It's just so cool. It doesn't sound like a John Williams score or anything like that. It sounds like
it's very children's animation at that time. Yeah, but especially from Japan, because, you know, I used to watch you know, some of those shows, like I think like there was Brothers Grimm's Fairy Tale, which was an animated show, and then Haim Saban, who created Power Rangers, he paid for it. He licensed it here for the U.S. and then hired American voice actors to provide an English dub. And so it uses, but I think they use the original Japanese soundtrack and score for those shows. So, you know, this you know, musical score, it really takes me back to my childhood.
Yeah. It's fantastic in every sense of the word. Yeah. Again, just watch this movie for the sound effects. Yeah. I can't even, like,
it's so well produced.
I can't remember because I mean, I was falling asleep for some of it, but like, I just wish I could be more specific. But like, even on the bike, whenever he's on the log, that's a bike that has the light and the rockets coming out of it and whatever. Like there was this sound effect of that, and it's just.
And there are parts in the movie that do tell you how to feel. Like, you can hear the sound cues to know when, like, this is an action scene. Yes. But you don't notice it. You know, you don't really notice it, which is, you know, how you know it's doing its job. Yeah. So. The script. You want to talk about the script?
I think we've talked about it, but we can.
Well, one of the things I wanted to point out in the script is, just how well motivated, all the characters are, especially the villains. I mentioned it before, but I kind of want to go in depth to it, especially in comparison to the first movie where we have Baron de Gaulle, who wants Katie for some unnamed reason, but also maybe Unico, which is why he holds her hostage. We don't know. But in this movie, holy shit, the villains are so sad. They're so tragic, and you feel for them, which Unico does. That's how he gets rid of his magic.
Yeah. No, I think this is probably better than the first one. It's probably a better movie.
This movie is it's an exemplar, right up there with Empire Strikes Back of sequels better than the first movie. Yeah, absolutely. But the reason why is because the villains are so motivated, they're so understandable, they're relatable once we understand where they're coming from, once we know their backstories and so forth. But the way that this movie does that kind of exposition is so wonderful. They go on that quest to find out. And in that regard, this movie also reminds me of The Neverending Story, which is also a traumatic 80s children's movie, which has a lot of similar things going on. A lot of tragedy, the end of the world,
when I was watching this, I was thinking like tangentially about Raiders of the Lost Ark, about how like one thing just leads to the next and leads to the next, where they go on a journey and then one clue leads to the next clue, and it's just, you don't mind it, but it's
no.
It is a little repetitive, but it's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's because it's so like fast paced and it doesn't dwell on anything too long. And so, you don't really think about it. And also the characters and their feelings are so engaging that you just kind of get swept up into it and you don't mind it. Yeah.
And the world is engaging as well. Like the settings are amazing. Sorry, I just thought of the ending again, and I thought of, can I go on a tangent?
Go for it.
Whenever freaking Karuku is having one of his final showdowns, and he's like zapping all over the place, trying to get Unico, and he's standing on a pillar, and like all the other pillars are crumbling down.
I think you said like, "Oh crap," in that moment or something like that.
I was like, "Oh crap!" Like again? Is this not again? Because it was exactly like in the first movie, whenever Beasel's dad, the demon, zaps a pillar and makes it fall back on him. And then doesn't someone else, that happens almost to Beazle in the same way, where Beazle is playing around and he zaps a pillar and it almost falls on him.
But he did that with Unico's horn, but because he had Unico's horn, it didn't kill him.
Right. But I thought the same exact thing was going to happen, that he was going to be destroyed by his own hatred and recklessness. But it doesn't happen, which I just thought that was like hilarious. And
well, I wrote that down in my notes. He doesn't get hurt, but he is destroying the things that he built up out of his own hate, which is, still, in the same metaphor for sure. Yeah, from the first one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because he is both destroying the hatred, the symbols of hatred that he has created in an act of hatred.
Yeah.
But it's endangering himself as well. Interesting.
Well, kind of like in Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, when Palpatine decides to have that showdown with Luke, on the Death Star, but refuses to leave when the Rebel Alliance fleet, decides to come in and tries to destroy it. Yeah, very similar. Very similar movies. But I was also thinking of another show, because we're talking about complicated and complex villains. And one of my favorite villains of all time is Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z. Okay, so there are a couple of shows in the Dragon Ball franchise. First, there's Dragon Ball, and there's Dragon Ball Z, and then there's Dragon Ball GT. And there are others, but we won't go that far into the weeds. But anyway, okay. So the first one is Dragon Ball, and that's about this little kid named Goku, who is he's like a wild child with a tail, and he gets trained by his master Gohan in the martial arts, but then Gohan dies, and so now he's all alone, and then he gets caught up in this adventure where they have to find the Dragon Balls that summon a dragon to grant wishes. Okay. But the thing is like, he's like the best fighter of all time. Okay. And then near the end of that show, we see he has grown up into manhood, and then he becomes part of this tournament. And there he fights Piccolo, which is like this demon that is green. He's all green with like antenna. Okay. Well, he was a little kid, and they fought. They had conflicts with each other as little kids, but now that they're grown, they're gonna have their duel in the tournament. And spoiler alert, Goku wins. Okay. And so Dragon Ball Z takes up a few years after that, where Goku has married Chi-Chi, and they have I think like 5-year-old son named Gohan, named after his master. And so what happens is you find out that Goku is a member of the Saiyans, and then 2 of the Saiyans have come to Earth. Well, okay. Long story short.
Thank you.
It's already long enough. What happens is the Saiyan comes by. He's supposed to destroy the Earth, but and Piccolo challenged Goku to a duel. But before they could duel, Raditz, who's a Saiyan and also Goku's brother, tries to fight them. And so Goku holds Raditz while Piccolo does a death beam that destroys Raditz and Goku both.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so now Goku is in the other world, which is is the English dub for the afterlife. And they're going to use the Dragon Balls to wish him back to life a year from now when the other 2 Saiyans come by to finish off the job. So what Piccolo does is he takes Gohan, and Piccolo trains Gohan. But Piccolo is Goku's enemy. Okay. Right. But Piccolo trains his enemy's son.
Yeah.
And then he eventually, learns to love him. And so they have their own special relationship, which is awesome. I think that's so great for a villain. For a villain to have that complicated relationship with 2 heroes. That's a level of complexity that villains should have. Well, that all characters should have. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe one day I'll write a story that actually is as complex as that. And maybe I'll follow my own advice sometime. Yeah.
Well, I think, again, this movie does a great job of setting up the stakes of the villain, of Sherry, and it even sets up the motivation of Toby. And we learn that his magic is not enough to save him, not enough to bring him happiness. Yeah, it's structurally a fantastic movie. It doesn't waste any time.
No.
And I think it benefits from not doing the thing what the first one does, which is having multiple storylines.
Yeah.
But I also liked that part of the first one.
Yeah. They're kind of like, well, I don't want to say they're exactly like Alien and Aliens, in that regard, in that they're totally different stories. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like, I like that the first one was like that.
Yeah.
And I think that was good for world building in a way, and for setting up the pattern of Unico and how he moves on every single time. But it paved the way for this one to be even better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was. Yeah, I think I'm pretty close to being done.
Okay.
Well, how long have we recorded?
An hour and 14 minutes.
Okay. What else do you want to talk about?
I think I've gone on enough tangents talking about things other than Unico.
It was weird when Unico was like floating on the cross in the end.
I don't think that was weird. I think that was very blatant. Somebody who redeemed someone evil through their love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your words are melting my heart. I'll be your friend.
Well, that's that's kind of the way to do it. I realize that when I've made an enemy of somebody,
mm-hmm.
the best way to handle that is to just be as nice and as constructive and like offer them as much of advice and try to do good by them as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Because each and every time they'll not want to have anything to do with it. And so they'll only mess themselves up. And they'll get so stubborn because they don't want to listen to you, even though you're offering good advice.
But your motivations here are not the same as Unico's at all. You have the opposite motivation. You're going with the kill them with kindness. Unico is going to save them with kindness.
Well,
it is what it is. I'm just
but Unico didn't save him. I mean, he still died,
Unico redeemed him, though.
Well.
Or led the path for him to be forgiven or seek some sort of redemption.
He rendered him powerless so that he could be loved by Sherry at the end. Yeah. And if I could render people powerless.
Anyways.
Yeah. Maybe my next pick will show what a terrible person I really, really am. To kind of make up for all this feels that we've had these past few movies. Mm-hmm.
I liked how the Sphinx reminded me of Beazle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I think it's kind of hard. Like, who was more Beazle like? Melvin or Baby Sphinx?
I thought Baby Sphinx as far as character design.
Yeah, as far as character design. And also, they were Unico's friends, whereas Melvin was never Unico's friend.
Yeah, Melvin never had got a redemption arc, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
And Beazle had their parents gone and was a demon's son, and so was the Sphinx.
Mm-hmm.
But the Sphinx's demon son or demon child was not malicious at all.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't waste any time on that.
Well, also the Baby Sphinx is a lot like Unico because I don't think we ever heard Baby Sphinx's pronouns, and he never got a name.
Yeah,
but he sounded like a woman. But that's could be because they're young, and it's like what do we call him or her? Or,
yeah.
Yeah. I kind of hate it when movies do that, when they like introduce somebody or they introduce a place, but they never say their name until like way later.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it doesn't matter. As soon as we're introduced to someone or somebody, unless it's like very important to the plot, have somebody say their name. It's not hard.
It is not hard, and it's convenient for the audience, and it's just...
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm nice. Sphinxy, and then you go on.
It's a courtesy.
How can I ask Sanrio for a baby Sphinx doll if I don't know the name of the baby Sphinx?
Fair.
I bet it's on Wikipedia.
Probably.
But we should not have Wikipedia in order to know their names. It should be in the movie. So that's me being a grump about this movie. The one thing I can be grumpy about.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Before you go, a special thank you to our bestest friend of the show, Brian. Thank you, Brian, for supporting Your Movie, My Movie. Now, if any of you would like to support the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/yourmoviemymoviepodcast, or leave us a review on whatever you're listening to us on. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.
And if you'd like to listen to a little bit more of me, Steve, then be sure to check out Real Play Games Podcast. Real Play Games Podcast is an actual play role-playing game podcast where GM John runs his friends, me included, through a bunch of tabletop role-playing games, some pretty popular and some of them obscure. They release episodes every week using a variety of different role-playing game systems. I'm not in every episode, but all of them are fun to listen to. So if you're looking for another great podcast to listen to, be sure to check them out.
Cool.
Okay.
Great pick, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you for showing this to me. I loved it.
Oh, I couldn't wait to show you this movie.
Yeah. You were so upset when we had Carlos come.
I was very upset.
Because we had to wait to watch Unico 2.
Well, I wonder if we have a curse where whenever I say that we're going to watch a movie and it's just never going to happen, you know? I don't want that to be a curse. I don't want that to happen.
We just broke the curse. You're good. You're good.
Oh, here's hoping.
Here's hoping. Knocking on wood.
Yeah, we might get to Beastmaster eventually. No.
Might get to what?
Beastmaster.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, one day. Someday.
Maybe one day. Well,
Well, I'm glad you liked it so much.
yeah, it was great.
Okay, wonderful.
I can't wait to show Sierra both movies.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to go on the record randomly.
Mhm.
I feel like I left it out on. This is forever ago by now. It's like a year past. But
Okay.
Sierra is the one who showed me we're all going to the World's Fair.
Okay.
That's on record now.
Okay.
I didn't discover it myself. Sierra showed me.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Anyways,
Wonderful.
sorry for that tangent.
It's
Great
okay.
movie. Guys, watch this dang movie. Watch
It's
both
not like,
movies.
we don't go on tangents on the show.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Watch this movie.
Watch.
It's a underrated gem. A very unknown gem, a very obscure gem, I think.
Yeah,
So,
and it's a movie you can watch when you're feeling bad. It's a movie you can watch anytime. It doesn't require a lot of effort or energy from the viewer, but it also it's an uplifting movie, and it's hard to find a good movie that is also beautiful and encouraging and positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, just be careful if you might want to cry and feel abandoned and all your friends are gone and they've lost them or you've lost them and it's so hard to take. I don't know if I can watch this movie with the
Have the Kleenex ready.
Yes. Have the Kleenex ready.
All right, great.
Okay.
Y'all come back now here. Farewell.
Bye guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Hey, you forgot.